Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, JoAnn Crone. And if your family has neurodivergence, meaning that if you or your kids or your spouse is experiencing either sensory issues or on the autism spectrum or ADHD, you are going to want to pay attention to this episode because so many parents struggle with this in their house because typical routines, they don't work for you. A lot of moms raising neurodivergent kids feel like they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. Like you try the routines, the schedules, the charts, the systems, but instead of making life easier, it's just arguing and yelling and chaos. And it's really easy to think like, why can't I get this right? Like, what is wrong with me? And I want to tell you, it's not an issue of you not having a good enough routine. It's that most routines were never designed to work with neurodivergent families in the first place. And what actually works isn't this rigid structure. It's this flexible and supportive rhythm that you can get into. So in this episode, we are going to talk about what happens in your family when traditional routines aren't working. Like, what are the warning signs? Maybe you'll pick out a few things that are happening right now in your family. How to build those routines that actually work, what to focus on, what to plan around, and then some simple daily rhythms that actually do work for neurodivergent families. And helping us out with that today, we have Greer Jones. She's the creator of The Unfinished Idea, a community supporting moms raising neurodivergent kids. After her son, her husband, and eventually she herself were diagnosed, Greer found herself in a season of deep overwhelm, burnout, and isolation. And through that experience, she began to rebuild her family routines in a way that actually supported their neurodivergent brains, finding small rhythms, real life tools, and a sense of connection that made daily life feel more manageable. Today, she hosts the podcast Neurodivergent Conversations and shares practical, honest support to help moms feel understood, equipped, and less alone as they raise their kids. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Greer. You're going to hear all of her trials and errors too, when she went from these really structured routines to what actually works today. So my goal in this episode for you is to help you feel less alone, but to also have you leave with really practical steps that you can take in your family. So now let's get on with the show. Greer, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were introduced through a mutual friend. I think it was Krista, because we both do summits, and she thought that we were both good people to know.
Yeah, exactly that.
Exactly that. And I love your work, especially your work helping neurodivergent families, because we are dealing with all the neurodivergence in my family over here. And you say that you and two other members of your family were diagnosed with neurodivergence right around the same time. What was happening in your life at that time that led you guys to get that diagnosis?
Yeah. So my oldest is diagnosed ADHD and autistic ADHD is how we say it. And we actually noticed when he was 2 that he was just processing the world differently. That was what started us on that journey of, okay, he's different, but we didn't know what that different was.
Right. What do you mean by processing the world differently? What did you see?
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah. So just how he would react. So he would, how he react to people was different than what we were kind of noticing. So he couldn't really speak, but he could count. So we actually labeled things in our house numbers because he could say those, but he couldn't say fridge, things like that.
Interesting.
And he would just have really big emotions. And okay, yes, at 2, you think, oh, that's normal too. But this was big. I can't even, this was explosive. It would come out of nowhere, really. It was, you couldn't even always see it build. And so we were just okay, this is different. And I'll be honest, the first thing we were told was he turned 2 just out of COVID. And so they were like, oh, it's COVID. He didn't interact with children. And I was like, no, there's something in a mom that she just knows, that mama feeling is what I call it, the mama bear instinct. And I just knew there was something else. I said, no, this is just, there's something else. There's something else kind of going
there.
on.
Yeah. I feel like I had the same situation like with my son. Like he processed things differently. We would go to restaurants and he would immediately be like, I can't stay in here because of the noise level. And it goes so beyond like a typical, like, oh, it's noisy, I'm uncomfortable. It's more like, no, I'm going to completely melt down. And we knew it instinctively, like when he was 2 and 3, we're like, this isn't going to work. Like as soon as we walked into a noisy place, we had to turn right around. So like, you know, as a mom, that something is not quite quote unquote normal.
Yeah. So we started that process. Now, I will just say I'm from the US, but I live in the UK. So getting a diagnosis through the NHS is a really long process, not one that's done quickly. However, I will just say because it is a long process, you can access support without a diagnosis. That kind of helped. So that did help to an extent. But yeah, so we were like, okay, we need to go to the doctor. We just kept going to the doctor over and over for different things and was like, we want this documented and we want this. And, just Googling as well. Google at 2 a.m. why my child is still screaming after 5 hours, things like that. So yes, that kind of really shook us. And then once he was diagnosed, I was like, right, I'm going to become the expert on this, because no one in that process of him getting diagnosed, we realized how broken the system is here in the UK. And just, I'm the expert of my child. I'm the only one who's going to advocate for him. As much as there are other people who support, they can't tell the whole story, but I can, because I see him every day.
Absolutely.
And so, so I was like, I'm going to know everything about this, which is a good and bad thing.
Yeah. So like when you were researching this and you were trying to figure out everything about this and know everything about this, did you see behaviors in that research that you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
That kind of sounds like me.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So I was reading a book by someone. I was doing an audiobook and they described a situation that happened. And I was like, that's literally my life. Like, how did you know that happened? Like, it literally happened, the same exact situation. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And
do you remember what that was?
Kept sharing
that situation that you're like,
yeah. So I started a podcast 18 months ago. There's more to the story than just what I'm going to share, but like I basically just essentially woke up one day and was like, I'm going to start a podcast.
That sounds like something I would do, Greer.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I think I did do that when I started this.
I basically said to my husband, like, get on board or like, too bad. Like we're in this. This is what we're doing now. So I've started this whole podcast. In the story, she says, one day I just woke up and started a podcast, which she now it's a very good, very well-known podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like, she's like, I didn't know what I was going to start about. It's changed over the years, like it's very different. But, she was just like, I just woke up and she talks a little bit about how it's the right vehicle came along for what the message she had, which very much resonated with me as well. But yeah, it was just like things like, and she was like, I've started 5 businesses. And I'm like, I haven't started 5 businesses, but I've definitely gone down 5 kind of hyper-focused seasons is like what I like to call them. So things like that, I was just like, oh my gosh, how do you know my life? Like, how do you know this is it? And she also talked about when she had kids, how a lot of things crumbled, which is a similar kind of story to me. I wouldn't say completely crumbled, but a lot of the things I wouldn't have ever said I was touched out, whereas touch is very high sensitivity for me. So I had kids who constantly touched me. Or noise as well. Again, just kind of having kids, more people in the house, having kids, just kind of noise things. So that was another thing. I was like, okay. So that was when I was like, okay, I need to go and get diagnosed. I was like, that's a whole nother, like the doctor, again, they were like, but you're sitting still. Like literally is what the doctor told me. I was like, let me inform you.
It's so hard, especially for women during like the diagnosis process. Because am I correct in assuming that what you got diagnosed with was ADHD?
Yes. Yeah.
And like women, it shows up completely different. And it's like this whole mental turmoil that we go through instead of this outward hyperactivity.
Yeah. And when I got it, I mean, people ask me, oh, why did you get it? And I said, I just wanted to know I wasn't crazy. Like, and to have a piece of paper that because that's basically all you get when you're diagnosed as an adult here in the UK is a piece of paper. And
It's like, congratulations, you get ADHD.
yeah, basically it should be like, congratulations, you have ADHD. Good luck.
Oh gosh.
Go forth and sort yourself out. So yeah, that was kind of how my process of getting diagnosed. And in that as well, just realizing my husband, so he's autistic, realizing, okay, this is, kind of that getting that expert on autism and what does that actually look like, realizing, oh, this is, again, just great. Like, I was like, the amount of times I've read articles or books, and I was like, this is my husband. Like,
Yeah,
this is.
it's so interesting.
So yeah, so that was kind of how we all got kind of diagnosed all together. And that was a time when we realized the world just wasn't built for us. And why were we trying to force ourselves into it when we could create our own, I don't want to say create our own world, but create our own, how, like in our house, we can create routines and rhythms that actually fit us versus trying to force something.
When you're just balancing all the things and somewhere in the chaos, you're still trying to figure out if your kids are actually getting their nutritional needs met? Yes, that was me. And honestly, that's how I found First Day, and it just simplified everything. Here's what got me. They actually make different formulas for toddlers, kids, teens, and adults. So it's tailored to your stage of life. My 13-year-old son isn't getting the same thing I am at 44 because what he needs and what I need are genuinely not the same. Finally, a brand that gets that. We're talking a blend of 21 organic superfoods and 9 key vitamins. No artificial dyes, no added sugars, nothing unnecessary. They test for over 200 toxins and have the Clean Label Purity Award. So I'm not second guessing what I'm putting in my family's bodies. It's just 2 gummies a day, which honestly makes it so easy to stay consistent. Over 1 million families use First Day, and they have a 45-day money-back guarantee. It just takes the guesswork out of it completely. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting an insane deal. Use code NGM to get up to 57% off at firstday.com. That's up to 57% off and a free gift with code NGM at firstday.com. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. If you're a parent, it is so easy to get overwhelmed, and you know how your own mental health always comes last. I felt that hard when my daughter was deep into competitive dance. 3-hour rehearsals multiple times a week, and in between, I was taking care of my son. I felt like a taxi driver running on fumes, and still trying to be present for everyone was a total no-go. Those are the moments where I really need someone to talk to, and honestly, those are the moments I usually let slip the most. I go to therapy, and it has genuinely changed how I show up. It's helped me understand why I react the way I do, step outside myself in moments of stress, and let go of so much shame I didn't even realize I was carrying. What I love about Rula is that they make it so much easier to actually get that support. They're a healthcare company that partners with over 120 insurance plans, so therapy doesn't feel like this huge financial stretch. The average copay is just $15 a session, and they match you with a therapist based on what you actually need, not just whoever has an opening, with appointments often available as soon as tomorrow. Thousands of parents are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance, helping them show up for their families. And so can you. Visit rula.com/NGM to get started. That's RULA.com/NGM. I want to talk about the moment I became a laundry sauce person. I was walking through my house and I just stopped because the whole laundry area smelled incredible. Not like laundry detergent incredible, like you just walked into a really nice hotel incredible. And that was it. So here's the thing about laundry sauce. These are premium scented laundry pods made with fine fragrances from the world's top perfumers. We're talking scents like Australian sandalwood, Italian bergamot, and a new limited edition Brazilian vanilla. And the scent lasts until your next laundry day. When I pull clothes out of the dryer, my first thought is genuinely, oh my gosh, this smells amazing. And the pods, they're pre-measured, pop them in, done. No lid, no guessing, no mess. Plus, they're packed with bioenzymes that actually obliterate stains from all the very summery things your family gets into. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code NOGUILT at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your entire order at laundrysauce.com with promo code NOGUILT. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. It's time to make laundry day the best day of the week. I love this whole insight you have about the world wasn't built for us. It wasn't built for a neurodivergent brain. What did it look like before when you were kind of like trying to fit yourself into all of those systems and routines that weren't built for you?
Chaos. It was very
Chaos.
chaos or loud chaos because we were just yelling at each other all the time. Like, I'll just be honest, like,
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah. I think
I
a
was
lot of
trying to,
people are in that
yeah,
situation right now.
like I was yelling at my kid because he wasn't doing something that he was supposed to be doing, but in reality, it's fine that he wasn't doing it. I always kind of say this is how families are. And it's like, actually, no, this isn't how families are. This is just one example, so why don't we create another example or create what works? So yes, I remember sitting at the dinner table one time and it just being total chaos happening. Like people were running around. There was like a child crying. I was crying probably at one point, like it was, and I was like, I kind of picture, I love Gilmore Girls. So sorry for those who don't, but
Rory and Lorelai.
there's like a scene where Luke is at Suki's house and they're having dinner together and there's a TV on and a baby crying and like Suki's yelling at, Jackson to do something. And Luke is just sitting there eating, just kind of just like as if it is not even bothering him. And like that was what was happening. Like my husband was just sitting there eating like as if nothing around him was bothering him. But yet the chaos was around him and chaos was happening. And it was just like, oh my goodness, this can't be life is kind of what.
That can't be life. That is so interesting that like he was just sitting there because so I am ADHD and my husband is autistic. And he has told me how much like chaos bothers him and how it dysregulates him. So much so that we have tried to make our home like a quieter place, a more predictable place. Did your husband say like any of those things that he needed? Or was he just completely kind of, I don't want to say the word oblivious, but able to kind of like tune out the chaos around
I wouldn't
him?
say tune out. I would say like he was numb to it. He
Numb.
would
Okay.
kind of just disassociate a little bit.
Disassociation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I wouldn't say, yeah. So, I mean, our house is now fairly predictable, which my ADHD brain kind of sometimes goes a little insane. I mean, like what we eat
I get you there.
is the same for the most part. I mean, during the week, it's a little different. So my husband works, he's a nurse. So he works like 14, 15-hour shifts. During the week, it's a little different because he's not always at home for dinner. But the weekend is we have the same thing Friday night, the same thing Saturday night, and the same thing Sunday night every week because that's for him. He doesn't work Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So that is what he has. Things like we do this the same thing on a Saturday and the same thing on a Sunday, week in, week out. Like we kind of joke like where the Joneses, like you'll always know on a Saturday and Sunday where we are because it's the same. And so, yeah, our house is pretty predictable. And I think that was a change that we're just like, if we want to enjoy our weekends, because I was finding as well, I was just super stressed out about the weekends because my kids were stressed out about the weekends. And so, to kind of keep that predictability, keep that calm, we were going to have to just have the same weekends. And yes, we spice it up a little bit because my ADHD brain's like, let's go, it's sunny, like we're going to do
Yeah, I'm
that.
the same.
But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty predictable.
My husband likes to describe the relationship between the both of us as we're like jazz music. He's the steady drum beat in the background, and I am like the instruments and the saxophones, like going all over the place and doing like all these riffs and stuff like that because it's this intersection of the ADHD brain and the autistic brain. And it works. It really does work. But you do need those routines and things to allow it to work. Like when you're at your dinner table and you realize like all of this chaos was around you and you said like, this doesn't have to be this way. What were some of the first steps you took to rebuilding things and creating systems that worked for you?
Yeah, this will sound a little strange, but the first thing I did was I thought about myself and what did I like? Because I found
I
in
think
that
that's
moment,
perfect, Greer.
yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people are shocked. They're like, what? Like, and I'm like, no, because I realized part of it was I was heading into burnout. And total side note, but burnout costs a family. So when a mom is in burnout, it costs a family a month, which this is in pounds, so I can roughly tell in dollars, but it costs a family roughly £1,200, so £1,200 more a month than if a mom wasn't in burnout.
Why do you think that is? What where's that extra expense coming
So
from?
it's because they often do a lot more like she's not cooking, so a lot more takeaways, a lot more kind of instant buy. So a lot of times moms in burnout will impulse buy. because they want that big kind of dopamine hit really quick. So if they did walking, they'll now get cars or drive more. So there'll be more like gas or petrol, like, so things like that. Like, it's not like big purchases. It's just a lot of little things that add up over time, which, yeah, there was a big study that was done. Well, it was released about 4 months ago now about burnout. It does talk about moms in general, like, but I think a lot of moms are were neurodivergent. It doesn't say that for sure, but I'm like, yes.
You have an inkling. You're like, yeah. So
Yeah.
you said that you first started, like, what did you like? And what did you realize that you wanted and you like that was maybe different from what your kids and your husband wanted and needed?
So I thought about what did I want in certain times. I think that's also clear to say. So, like, what did I want my mornings to look like? What did I want my kind of day to look like? And what did I want my evenings to look like? So I kind of just thought through that. So I wanted to have mornings where we weren't rushed. So I think it's really important to think specifically for you as well. So don't just say, oh, good morning. Like, no, what does that mean? Like, be really specific and write it down. Again, when you write things down, you're like 10 times more likely to do it. Or so it's some like crazy statistic, like you're more likely to do it. So write it down and not on your phone, like actually write it on a piece of paper. But yeah, so I just looked at those three things. So for me, having a morning that wasn't rushed. So that's not to say it's not going to be chaotic. I just didn't want it to be rushed. And then in the evening, I didn't want to scream. That was the biggest thing. I just found I was screaming all the time. And when screaming, I was just like yelling, screaming, just raising my voice like all the time. And so those were the two big things. And so then I just did steps back, like, okay, well, if not being rushed in the morning what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to get up a little earlier. Or I was finding pain points that were causing things to be rushed. So for example, for us, we do wear a uniform to school. It's very common in the UK to do that. So that helps with the school pick, but still we were arguing over that every morning. I was like, why are we arguing over a uniform? So, so having that out the night before, having the shoes out by the door, then I put them out the night before. So again, no one's looking for shoes when we need to go out the door. Having my oldest now can kind of do his own cereal. So I put out the cereal in the bowl, the night before. So trying to think through like all the things that was going to help. So in the morning, I don't have to actually do it.
That's really smart. So like you're kind of working backwards from what you want, that lack of rush. And then you found the pain points that are causing that rush. And then from those pain points, trying like those really specific routines and solutions to like approach them. Were there any kind of like trial and error situations where you tried something and it didn't
my
work?
first thought was like, okay, I'm just going to get up 45 minutes earlier because that should solve all the problems.
I think a lot of moms think that. Like, I just need to get up earlier.
No. I like my sleep. So 45 minutes was like a big ask. And I was getting tired. Like, I was like, there was a point where I was like taking a nap in the middle of the day. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And then it obviously has a knock-on effect. So I realized actually, I'm not a great morning person. I always say I'm a great in the middle of the day person, but I could do these things in the evening. So let's think about, so definitely my trial and error. My first one was don't just get up earlier. That's not the solution. So to figure out, I realized like, actually I could do a lot of these things in the evening. And then also I realized I can start including my kids. They're still a little younger. Like instead of me just going, this is what you're wearing, say to them the night before, like, okay, you have 2 minutes to go pick what you're wearing. Cause again, setting a timer, that was a trial and error of, I would just say, go pick what you're wearing. And it would take, the decision was just too much. Whereas if I say, you have 2 minutes, that seems to work, that kind of thing. So lots of trial
It is such a good thing too for a neurodivergent brain for like the timers. Like I use timers a lot as well. They help me stay focused. They also prevent overwhelm from a task because then it's like, okay, I could do 2 minutes. I can't do like this amorphous task that I don't know how long it's going to go on. A tip that I heard recently is, I think we've talked before, ADHD Love, right? The creators. Yeah. Like they said something like he was talking about how his wife who has ADHD was always late. Like if he's like, okay, you have 5 minutes to go till we have to go. She was still late. Like she wouldn't get going until he was like, we have to go. And she's like, oh, let me get ready. Instead, framing it as you have 300 seconds to get ready, that countdown starts in your mind of like 300, 299, 298. And if my husband tried this on me now under my total knowledge and I know what he's doing, it works Greer. It totally works for my brain.
Yeah, because we know seconds are so small, whereas minutes are big to us, and this is sorry, I love, like I said, I've become an expert on ADHD. And so the ADHD brain, if it's too big, it can't figure it out. It's like, this is, so when we think of a big task, when we think of, time, it's too big. So if we can chunk it down as much as possible. And for us, seconds is, so even if you have 300 seconds, to us, we're like, seconds, we gotta go. Yeah. And that's what, I mean, like, I kind of chunked down my day, because you could say, well, what do you want in your day? That's for me, that's overwhelming. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I have phases of my day. What do I want? And so looking at very specific times can be really helpful to kind of start. I just also want to say, like, I looked at my day, and yes, I talked about like kind of 3 parts, but I only looked at one at a time. And once we kind of got one somewhat manageable, I then moved on to the next one. As much as my ADHD brain wanted to just overhaul everything, it doesn't work that way, like as much as I wanted it to. So I started with my mornings, and I found, because we weren't rushed out of school, we got into school better. Like, he could start school better. He then came out better. Like, I actually found it had kind of a knock-on effect to the rest of my day. So I recommend mornings as a starting point, but you can start wherever.
You know what I just realized? I have trips on the calendar this summer, and I have been completely ignoring the most important question. What am I actually going to wear on the plane? Because here's the thing. I want to look cute on the plane. I don't want to be in like mismatched sweats, but I also want to feel like I am wrapped in a cloud for 5 hours. I want to be comfortable. It feels impossible, right? That is where Quince comes in. And honestly, I keep coming back to them because they make it so easy. Quince has these beautiful everyday pieces like 100% European linen pants, dresses, and tops with styles starting at just $32. And everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands because they work directly with ethical factories and skip the middleman markup entirely. You're paying for quality, not a logo. I just ordered the Cloud Comfort wide leg pants for my trip, and I am genuinely so excited about these. They look really cute, and they are way, way less than similar pants I've seen elsewhere. Comfy and adorable. That is a win I did not even know I needed. Elevate your summer wardrobe. Go to quince.com/NGM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/NGM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/NGM.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
El 2026 FIFA World Cup Meal llegó a McDonald's con 9 vasos legendarios. En el lineup tenemos Christian CP10 Pulisic, David Beckham, Lamine The Dream Yamal, Ronaldinho El Mago, Monsieur Titi Henry, Son Salih Heung-min, Alfonso Fonsi Davis, Santi Bebote Jiménez y en la portería el que no necesita apodo, Grimes.
Llévate uno de 9 vasos legendarios con el FIFA World Cup Meal. En McDonald's participantes solo por tiempo limitado, hasta agotar existencias.
Yeah, like a rushed morning sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I actually interviewed Jenna Free, who is an ADHD coach. I don't know if you know of her, but she said that a lot of times we as moms don't realize we're dysregulated in the moment. Like, we will just go from seemingly fine to like yelling at our kids. And she said one of the preliminary signs that you're going to be dysregulated is rushing. If you find yourself rushing, that's like an indicator that, hey, this is going to go bad down the line. So I love that you started right there in your mornings, trying to minimize that rushing tendency. What are like some other simple routines that you started in your home that really work for your household?
So like I said, we kind of, part of what did I want was looking at what's going to work for our family. And obviously there's the law, but also there's our family rules, or kind of like, and so how can we change our family? I always very specific about the law because that is, my son wants to be a police officer when he grows up. He's 7, so he has a while, but he is very much into the law right now. Like he is like, is that a law or a rule? Like, we talk a lot about that. Was looking at those rules of what works. So for example, we have brain breaks while we eat dinner. So yes, we all sit down to dinner. We sit down for about 3 to 4 minutes. And then my son runs around for about a minute or two. And then he comes back and he eats again. And he'll, do that. And we even do that when we go out. So obviously in restaurants, he's not running around crazy, but like if he needs to stand up and like jiggle or wiggle or bounce, like at the table, we'll, why not? Like if that means he'll then sit down for a few minutes and eat. Because we were finding it was just really hard to get him to eat because he was just needing to exert all this energy. So we don't always eat together, but not in the same. Everyone sit down for 20 minutes, eat, have a great time. It's often people are in and out, like just needing to do what they need to do.
I think that is so awesome, by the way, Greer. I just want to point out what you're doing there is you're meeting your child at his level so that he is capable of sitting at the table for 3 minutes right now. And then he needs that time to burn off instead of expecting him right away to sit down and eat for 20 minutes, which I find is impossible. And I find a lot of parents kind of give themselves grief if they see their child can't sit still. They feel like they need to be stricter or they feel like they need to be preparing them for the real world. So they make them sit there. And when you're doing this with your son, what kind of benefits do you see with letting him go off and take a brain break? How does he
He'll
come back?
And he'll eat. He'll actually eat. I mean, we had such stress about him eating because he couldn't focus on eating because he needed to go get this energy out. And so he wouldn't eat, or he'd eat a little bit and then need to go. So we'd be like, oh, you're finished then, if you're going to go. And then he, 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, he's like, I'm hungry again. And then it's this whole battle. So just finding him, he'll go for a minute or two, come back and actually eat. And often then we find it's actually increasing over time. So, it's kind of 3 minutes. And then, we noticed actually the other day, it was he sat for 7 minutes, which that's a big accomplishment in our house.
Yes.
And we were like, oh, wow. Okay. And it's partly because he's built up to that, but also because he knows he has the freedom to go and do something if he needs to. And so I think that's helped him relax a little bit and his nervous system to go, oh, I can relax. And when we sit down to eat, because I know my needs are going to be met if they need to be, if something arises.
That is such a good point.
Which is, yeah. And that's, I think, what we've really, at the heart of what we've tried to do with our family, setting, different routines and rhythms, is we want everyone's nervous system to feel safe, because that's when shutdown happens. That's that fight or flight mode, is when our nervous systems don't feel safe. And so kind of creating a space where they feel safe and where they can kind of just, I always like to say, I want to create a space where our nervous systems can exhale, kind of just go, okay, because I know, at school, our son is holding it in a lot. As much as I think he lets things out, he still holds a lot in. Yeah, creating that space and going not just in our home, but that's our family dynamic. That's not just our physical home, but kind of our family dynamic. So when we go out, I will say I'm kind of used to some of the stares now, but knowing there are going to be people who don't really understand what's happening, but I also know I don't really care about them, not in a mean way, but in a,
right.
just I care about my son and I care about what's happening to him. And so I'm going to do what is going to help him. And ultimately what helps him is going to help everyone else as well. So kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hard to do those things when they're younger for a lot of parents, because you do get the stares, you do get the criticisms from people. My friends would invite me places with my son and I would have to cancel right before because something happened where I knew that he was not capable of being in that situation at that time. And it was just going to be awful for everyone. And I still do that today. I mean, today he's 12 now and he was getting a tissue from the toilet paper roll and he was taking it off and he sneezed so hard that he brought his head back and he slammed it into the wall. Just total accident that happened. But he wasn't capable of going to school after that point just because all the emotions were flooding through his body and he had this now huge headache because he just rammed his head into a wall. And a lot of parents look at that and a lot of teachers look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, you're not being strict enough with your kids. You're not like making them go. And I have to say that now that I have a 17-year-old daughter and I use the same approach with her, they feel so cared for. They feel like they know themselves and they know what they need and they're willing to advocate for what they need, which I would love because being raised the way I was and my parents were great, it was just neurodiversity wasn't appreciated then. I would love that sense of inner knowing that I know my needs and I'm willing to advocate for them versus like trying to make everyone else feel comfortable.
Yeah. And that's what I remember sitting in a room once being like, my son's going to turn 18 at one point and he's going to have to advocate for himself. And so I need to teach him now how to do that. Obviously not the level of an 18-year-old, but like, that idea of like, I need him to know now because even if he knows now, hey, I need to go, they have brain breaks at school or different things that he has access to. If he doesn't ask for them, he doesn't get them just because the teacher is doing lots of other things. And so, telling him like, ask and you'll receive kind of thing, like, and the idea of, just kind of trying to get him to start to advocate for himself so that when he is older, he can do it as well, which, it takes time because, again, my parents were great,
time,
but they didn't know. I think we've learned a lot in the last 3, 5, 10 years about neurodivergence, but there are times I look back on my life and I think, I wish someone had advocated for me in this moment instead of just seeing it as something else or not knowing. And that's life. But it's hard.
It's like a gift giving your kids with, even though you're dealing with the stares from the strangers, what you're helping them realize is their own needs and then to ask for them. That is such a powerful thing. For the mom who feels like life is so chaotic right now, what do you suggest as one simple shift she can start with to start creating some of these little routines that work for her and her family?
I would say take 15 minutes a week or, 5 minutes a day where you can just sit and be still and you can be calm. I first started that when my kids went to school. So during the day, I would do it on my own because I had 15 minutes of peace in my house. But I started to realize that actually they need to also see modeling is like the best way to teach a neurodivergent person anything. You need to start modeling that for them. And so I would say, like, tell your kids, hey, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and I'm going to read my book and sit here. Go play or go do something, whatever. And just say, when those 5 minutes are, in that 5 minutes, like, mommy's still here. I always say, mommy's still here, but you can't talk to her. And that's taking time. Don't get me, like, did not say that once. And they were like, oh, cool. Like, we'll leave you alone.
It takes some practice.
It takes practicing. But, it's helped them to see, oh, mommy's having some we call it downtime, some calm time. And I often find that they then go have some calm time as well. And so it kind of has just brought calm. The other thing is I also like to say, talk your feelings. So when I'm starting to get overwhelmed, I will sometimes nicely yell, freeze. Everyone in the house knows they need to kind of freeze what they're doing. And I'll say like, oh, I'm getting overwhelmed or I'm feeling upset or, like whatever I'm needing. I'm just needing you all to kind of just stop for a minute to freeze. Let's see what can we do to play a little quieter, play a little, or whatever we need to do.
That is a great suggestion, like a great reset for people to do when it feels just so
Again,
chaotic.
It's that modeling. I'm saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Like, and so when our son feels overwhelmed, we don't always listen when he says freeze because he likes to say it a lot. But, we are saying like, oh, I'm really overwhelmed by this noise or this, or I'm, feeling whatever kind of emotion. And we can kind of not stop in his tracks in a bad way, but just in a like, okay, well, let's see, how can we change this or help this or do that?
Yeah.
And so
that's excellent.
Again, that takes time. The first time I yelled freeze, no one stopped. So that takes time.
Right. It takes some time to get through, definitely. I've loved these tips, Greer, and to see like the ins and outs and the trial and error of like how you went from thinking you really needed structured routines and they weren't working to being a bit more flexible and seeing exactly what your pain points were and then working from those, I think is such a great lesson and a big takeaway from our conversation today. Tell everyone about your podcast.
Yeah. So I'm the host of a podcast called Neurodivergent Conversations, where we have everyday conversations about being neurodivergent or raising a neurodivergent child. And yeah, I'm definitely that person who's like, a stranger is just a friend I haven't met yet. So I always say I have friends on, even if it's the first time meeting, and we just talk about the everyday, and we talk about what that really looks like. That was something I just felt like I was missing, was someone actually getting what my everyday looked like and why, I would put in the group chat like, oh my gosh, she's wearing socks today. And people were like, cool, like what? I don't understand what that means.
It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or even just clothes. My child doesn't like clothes. So getting him to wear clothes was a big accomplishment. But yeah, so yeah, we talk about that, just the everyday, and then how we can do it. So we'd love anyone to come listen and join in that conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later. If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You can also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.